Okay guys, let's solve a question on limiting factor. So over here you can see Siren manufactures three different products, product A, B and C. They've given you all information, selling price, direct material, direct labor, there is variable overhead and demand for each product has been given. Now they're saying their fixed cost, annual fixed cost for the entire factory is $20,000. 1 kg of raw material is worth $8 and labor is paid $5 per hour. Now, before we move forward, what we all should do is we should first calculate the contribution per unit for each product. So, guys, please calculate your contributions. Okay, so you should get the contribution per unit for product A to be $13, for product B to be $8, and for product C to be $13 again. Alright, so if you just do selling price minus these three variable costs, you should arrive at these answers. Alright, now let's see what the question is asking for. Okay, so part A is saying that if only 5,000 kgs of material is available and there is no shortage of labor, draw a production schedule which will maximize your profits. Now, over here, you guys can identify that the limiting factor, the resource constraint or the shortage is raw material. All right, so all your decision making has to revolve around raw material. So, in order to determine which product to be ranked first, second, and third, what we need to do first is to write down all three products A, B, and C. Now, we've already calculated their contributions per unit. All right, so we got this to be $13, 8, and 13. This is how much they earn on every single unit. Now, let's calculate how much of a resource do they consume. By that I mean how much kg per unit do they consume, so that we can compare what they earn versus what they consumed. So let's go back to the original question again. Okay, so if we come back over here, what we can say is that 1 kg of raw material is worth $8. They've given us that. Now if we look at product A's raw material cost is $8. So for A, what I can say is that if raw material cost is 8 and 1 kg is also worth $8, it means that product A consumes 1 kg per unit. So on every unit that product A makes, it will consume 1 kg. I can do the same for B, that is $6 of raw material and 1 kg is worth 8. So it means that B consumes 0.75 kg per unit. That's how much B is consuming. And if you do that for C as well, the raw material cost is 12. So for C, you can again say 12 divided by 8, that is 1.5 kg per unit. This is their resource consumption. All right, so now we can go back to our workings. Okay, so I've written this over here. A consumes 1 kg, B consumes 0.75 kg, and C consumes 1.5 kg per unit. This is how much they earn. This is how much they consume. So remember, what we calculate is contribution upon limiting factor. So in this case, I will calculate contribution upon kg. So if you guys calculate this over here, A earns $13 per kg, B earns $10.66 per kg, and C earns 8.6 per kg. That's the rough answer. Alright, so now you've calculated how much does each product earn if I allocate 1 kg to it. So I think the ranking becomes straightforward. I will first manufacture A, that's the highest contribution per kg. I will then manufacture product B, that's the second highest contribution per kg. And at the end, I will manufacture product C. So while allocating 5,000 kgs, your first priority is A, then it's B, and finally it's C. Alright, now once you have figured this out, now you can draw your production plan. Let's draw the production plan together. All right, so you guys are supposed to draw a production plan. Your production plan should be like this, right? The product in this column, kg per unit, the demand and total kgs. And remember, the total has to be 5,000 kgs. That's the kg available. All right, now our ranking shows that product A has to be manufactured first. A consumes 1 kg per unit. The total demand for A is 3,000 units. So if we multiply this, I will allocate 3,000 kgs to product A. That's the number of kgs I will allocate to A over here. Okay, after that, I will manufacture product B. That's rank number 2. Now for B, what we know is B consumes 0.75 kg per unit. All right, and the demand for B was 2400 units. So if I make 2400 units of B with 0.75 kg per unit, I will consume 1800 kgs over here. So I've allocated 1800 kgs to product B. Now we're left with product C. So for product C, we only have 200 kgs left. That's the remaining kgs left. B consumes 1 point, sorry, C consumes 1.5 kg per unit. All right, that's the requirement for C. So if we do 200 divided by 1.5, we can make 133 units of product C. So our production plan is essentially over here. We'll make 3,000 units of A, 2,400 units of B, and 133 units of C with 5,000 kgs. That's the output that will help us maximize our profit. So let's also calculate how much profit will we earn. Okay, so let's calculate the profit now. Remember, for product A earns $13 per unit and we're making 3,000 units completely. So A will earn $39,000 worth of contribution. For product B earns $8 per unit and we're also fulfilling its demand, which is 2,400 units. This should give us 19,200. Okay, and finally for product C, which also earns $13 per unit, but we're only making 133 units over here. So if we calculate this, we should get 1729. Alright, so now if we add this up and calculate our total contribution, this will give us 59,929. Alright, now and if we subtract our fixed cost, less fixed cost, remember our fixed cost was $20,000.
Quick pause. If you're finding value in this explanation, there's so much more to discover. At Alt Academy, we break down every A-level concept with the same level of clarity. Now, let's continue.
And that gives us a profit of 39,929. That's a profit for part A. So with 5,000 kgs and a production plan of 3,000 of A, 2,400 of B, and 133 of C, the maximum profit the firm can make is 39,929. There will be no other combination with 5,000 kg that can give us a higher profit. All right. Now, in this case, we looked at our limiting factor constraint to be raw material. For part B, what we'll do is we'll look at a constraint to be direct labor hours. Alright, so part B is now saying that assume material is not in short supply, but labor hours are restricted to 10,000 hours. Now, your limiting factor is no longer raw material, it's actually labor hours. That's your new limiting factor. So you'll have to do your analysis again. What we'll do is we'll write product A, B, and C again. Contribution per unit remains the same, which was 13, 8, and 13. What will change is your limiting factor. So instead of kg per unit, I'll now write labor hour per unit, and based on that, I will calculate contribution per labor hour. This will allow me to rank my product. So let's go back to the original question and let's figure out how much labor hour per unit is each product consuming. Similarly, for labor hour, what we can say is labor is paid $5 per hour and your labor cost for A is 10, for B it's $3 per unit, and for C it's $30. All right, so now if we calculate the labor hour per unit similarly, we can say for A requires 2 hours per unit, because if you do 10 divided by 5, you should get 2 hours. For B, you should do 3 divided by 5, that is 0.6 hour per unit. And for C, that's 30 divided by 5, that is 6 hours per unit. That's the labor hour consumption. Now let's plug this in over there. Okay, so now let's calculate contribution per labor hour. So for A, you should get 6.5 per hour, that's 13 divided by 2. For B, you should get 8 divided by 0.6, that is 13.3 per hour. Now you can see A compared to A, B becomes a lot more profitable for us with labor hours. And for C is 13, but for 6 hours per unit. That's 2.16 or 17 per hour. So now your ranking will change. Now you will first manufacture product B, then you will manufacture product A, and finally you will manufacture product C over here. All right, so your ranking has now completely changed. So let's draw the new production plan with 10,000 labor hours. All right, so I've drawn the production plan for you guys. We're going to make B first, then A, and then C. B requires zero point 0.6 hours per unit. Now remember, the demand for B is still 2400 units. So if you allocate B 0 0.6 into 2400, that is 1440 hours will be allocated to product B. Alright, so out of 10,000 hours, you've allocated for 1440 hours to B. Then you will make A. Now the demand for A is 3000 units. That's 2 hours into 3000. That is 6000 hours have been allocated to product A. Alright, so for product C over here, you're left with 2560 hours. If you guys calculate this, these are your outstanding hours. So you can allocate 2560 hours to product C that consumes 6 hours per unit. So if I do 2560 divided by 6, I should get 426 units of C can be made. Alright, so your new production plan is 2400 units of B first, 3000 units of A, and 426 units of C. So you guys can see when your limiting factor will change, your priority or preferences will also change, and so will the production plan over here. When we were using raw material, we were first prioritizing A, then B, then C, but with labor, B becomes much more profitable, so we'll first make B, then A, and then C. Alright? And the last part, let's also take a look at part C, which is another case over here. Okay, now part C is an interesting case. Now they're going back again that you only have 4500 kgs of material available. So again, raw material becomes your limiting factor. But now they've given you another constraint. Mr. Siram, who's the owner, has ordered that at least 500 units of each product must be produced. So now you have two constraints. The first constraint is you have 4500 kgs. The second constraint is you have to make minimum 500 units of each product over here, A, B, and C. And you just need to make sure that both of these constraints are satisfied. All right. So how should we do this now? What we'll do is we'll first fulfill this constraint. I'll make product A, B, and C regardless of their ranking. I'll make 500 units each of A, B, and C. Now, if you look at part A, yeah, so this was their material requirement per unit, 1 for A, 0.75 for B, and 1.5 for C. So if we allocate them, 500 kgs go to A, 375 kgs go to B, and 750 kgs are allocated to C. So I first fulfilled this constraint of making 500 units each. Now with the remaining kgs, I will go back to my ranking. So with raw material, our rank number 1 was product A. So I will first finish off product A. Again, product A requires 1 kg. The total demand for A was 3000 units. I've already made 500, so I'll make 2500 units more. That's 2500 kgs are further allocated to product A. So for product B, which is rank number 2, we are left with 375 kgs. So we'll try to use 375 kgs for product B. That should be 375 divided by 0.75. So you can make 500 more units of B. Alright, so to conclude, while satisfying these two constraints, A has been completed with 3000 units. For B, we've managed to make 500 in the first go, 500 over here. That adds up to be 1000 units. And for C, we've managed to make 500 units as well, just satisfying the minimum constraint. Now, obviously, when you guys calculate this profit yourself, you will find this profit to be lower than the normal ranking. But since we had to satisfy this constraint, this should be our production plan over here. All right, I hope this question does make sense. It sets up all the basic concepts for limiting factor. I shall solve another question on limiting factor in the next video.
Our complete A levels accounting course is waiting for you on our website. In addition to accounting, you can also find business, economics, maths, and 4 other full A level offerings. So thousands of students who've already unlocked their potential. Visit all to get me right now.